The best brands define their PR wow in a clear, concise, and compelling way to attract major media coverage, fans, and sales. Find out their marketing and public relations secrets today on 8 Second Branding with host Liz H. Kelly. Liz is the founder of Goody PR and the author of 8 Second PR. In each episode, she brings you the stories behind some of the best brands, CEOs, and authors. Plus, she explains how media appearances alone are 3 times more valuable than any paid ad. Now, here's your host, Liz Kelly.
Hello, this is Liz Kelly live with a hot new episode of 8 Second Branding, the podcast. And today we are going to talk about everything Instagram and how do you maximize Instagram with all these new features with our special guest, Michael Guberti. And Michael is a social media expert and a business journal contributor who knows a lot that we don't know. So Michael, welcome to the show.
Oh, well, Liz, thank you so much for having me. Great to speak with you.
Absolutely. So before we get started, Michael, can you tell us a little bit about your background and how did you fall in love with social media?
Well, yes, by way of introduction, I am a social media expert because I help businesses reach more people with digital marketing, and be it through sending messages out on Instagram or using email marketing to their benefit. It's an item that I've been doing for over 5 years, I'd say about 6 now. So that is my experience with digital marketing. I also have a nonprofit called Goody Giving, which helps youth, single moms, and veterans. So we try to get the word out about that too. And it's mostly through digital media. So I'm familiar with digital media.
Fantastic. And I love that you have a foundation. Congratulations. Because our PR company, Goody PR, we're all about magnifying good and helping people who are making a positive impact on the world get their word out. Now let's shift to the topic of the day, which is Instagram, which is probably, is it the most popular social media platform today?
Yes, I would say by a few different measures, yes.
That's what I would guess, because people, they love photos, and my PR book, 8 Second PR, is all about the fact that the average attention span of an adult is 8 seconds. So for most people, thumbing through photographs is low stress and enjoyable. But now Instagram has added all these other features like stories and reels, and you can advertise on there. So can you help us break that down? Maybe we should start with stories. Why do you want to post a story versus just a photograph, and how do you do that?
It's a great question. So many people use Instagram exclusively to look at the pictures, and other people use it exclusively to look at the stories. So you might as well cater to both. If you're posting a photograph, why not turn it into a story? That way you reach people who like either one, or maybe they do both. The second aspect of how to do it, in terms of we know why to do it, how many millions of people look at Instagram stories, so you might as well reach people there. How to do it, it could be as simple as taking what you posted already and resharing it to your stories on the basis that a certain group of people saw it. Maybe there are other people who would see it for the first time if you put it in your stories. And any behind the scenes information, like you're getting ready for an interview and you're 5 minutes away from it, you take a picture of yourself or of your equipment. A little taste into behind the scenes content would be great for Instagram stories.
I love it. And then do the Instagram stories disappear, or do they stay on the platform?
It's a great question. They stay up for 24 hours in that little circle on that icon that you have. And if you want to have them last longer, there's a little feature called a highlight. So you turn a story into a story highlight, which then are those little circles underneath your Instagram bio. So the short answer is they last for 24 hours. If you want them to last longer than that, you make a highlight based on the story.
And did they get that concept from Snapchat where it disappears? Yes, that's what I thought. I never use Snapchat. I should not admit that, but I have not. All right. So what about, when you have a post and it's got multiple pictures, is that a story? Is that like a slideshow story?
It is like a slideshow. Their language is carousel, so you can swipe on through it and you can click on different things if it's in the square, as I refer to it. So that'd be in your feed, and you can have a carousel in your feed. You can also have a series of pictures in your story. So you can apply the format to both the feed, which is the squares, and the stories, which is the circles that last for 24 hours unless you highlight them.
And which one's more popular or better for marketing?
It's a great question. I always tend to say use both because you have them available to you. If I had to pick one over the other, it's a great question. It's a little quicker to create stories because you don't have to write words with it. It could just be a picture you've done and you post it, as opposed to when you go the other way, you have to write something with it. So if I had to pick one, I lean 60-40 to stories. But seeing as we have access to both, why not use them both?
And also with a story, is this how it works? Like if I post a story, it goes to all my friends in their basically Instagram messaging. Is that right?
That can happen if you send the story to them. So the short answer to your question is it can happen that way. There's a little feature called close friends on Instagram. And if you put people on a list and you say, Joanne's my close friend, Nick is my close friend, you got a list of them, then you could send it only to your friends. So if you did that, then the short answer to your question would be yes.
So we've got stories, we've got carousels within the feed. All right. So now, what about Reels? How does that work? Because I've never done it, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners have not. I actually went and talked to, it was a millennial in a retail store yesterday. And I said, do you ever use Reels? And she said, no, I don't have time. But is it a lot of time? What's involved?
It's a video that's up to 60 seconds in length. It's being prioritized by Instagram at the moment. So if you post it, it might get a little more reach from the robot. I always call it as it is. Some people call it an algorithm. Some people call it a system. It's a robot that we're dealing with. So if you post Reels, then the robot, because they're prioritizing it, may show it to more people. Why are they prioritizing it to begin with? Because they're trying to stay ahead of any apps they consider to be competitors, which some come to mind like TikTok, and it's some short, really bite-sized videos. So Instagram said, oh, well, that's interesting. Let us try short, bite-sized videos. So up to 60 seconds. And my position on this is that people have done videos that are up to a minute in length. They're probably sitting on your camera roll on your phone right now, or you've posted them in the past. Since it's already done, just take it and put it on Instagram and see how it does. It's efficient in the sense that it's a quick start method. It is within the time limit that is given. And it's a nice test to see if I post my first Reels, how is it going to do? Did this topic connect with people? How many views did we get? And you can take it from there.
So it's basically a 1 minute or less video. And what about music? Can you add music to it? And how do you do that?
You can add music to it. It is optional to do. In their settings, they have a little musical note looking icon. If you click on that, you can search through a list that they have of available music. And it's your ability to find the music you like let's say you have one in mind. Oh, I love that song. I'll just see if I can add it. It's going to be hit or miss because of the copyright component to it as to if the musician has allowed their music to be used. So you search, you see what you find. You can, by clicking on that little music icon, search through a library, and you can add it to different parts. If you only want it at the beginning and the end, you could do it. If you want it throughout, you can do it only in the middle, you could do it. And you could also use different music along the way. So click the little music icon note to get started.
Okay, so do people, I've seen people post video within what you call a carousel, where it's like a slideshow. Is that something else you can do? Is that Reels, or is that just a video?
That, because of the flexibility of the platform, can be both. So you may very well have seen it on both Reels and the feed in the past. If we take those both one at a time, the Reels could be just really quick cuts, something that's trying to hold your attention. You go from one scene to the next. Maybe you have some music in the background, some text on top of it too that changes, and more moves. So that'd be the Reels component. You could very well have a carousel looking video there. And then in the feed, you can 100% have a carousel. In fact, many times you might find yourself just swiping through to see what the next picture is as you go on through. So yes, carousels are very possible in multiple ways.
Okay, so my next question is, Instagram announced maybe a month ago that they were going to shift away from being a photo platform and become more a video platform. Well, I guess they're prioritizing videos, I'm guessing, because sometimes I scroll through my feed and all I'm seeing are videos. So can you talk a little bit about that? And then how do you measure the results? Because when I post a picture, I can see how many people like it. But with the views on the video, it just doesn't seem to be that high. Maybe I'm posting boring videos, but can you talk about how that works?
I'm sure you're posting very good videos.
I don't know.
The aspects of it are that they are, so firstly, as to the decision that they made, someone stood up in the room or on the virtual meeting and they said, we got to go more video oriented as opposed to picture based. Why they did that? It could be any number of reasons. One, they want to stay ahead of TikTok or other video based apps. Two, they want people to spend more time on the platform. So if you have one that's pictures exclusively and videos exclusively, you would think that just because you have to watch a video for more than the time it takes to look at a picture, that probably you'd be spending a little more time on the videos just because of the nature of what they are. So maybe they said we want to increase the amount of time that people invest with us. Could be that that also happens to have a benefit towards their advertising. The more time you spend, the more ads they can show to you, the more revenue they can generate. So it could have all been tied together. And as to what to do with these videos, yes, views become the primary metric for, in the immediate sense, when you open Instagram, you say, oh, how many views did it get? You could also look at the shares and the saves. Now, those two are interesting because one indicates the interest to share to your peer group. The other indicates potential future interest in your product or service. If they want to save it to look at in the future. So let those metrics become part of your measurement. And ultimately, I think you got to tie everything back to business results. If the videos you're posting helps the phone ring and the business grow, then all those other metrics are important, like the views and the shares and the saves. And those two, the revenue and the activity of the business, are the most important.
Well, that's a really good point, not to get so caught up in the measurement, but look at what's the impact on the business. Is the phone ringing? Are you getting the desired result? And for example, for Goody PR, we focus on 5 VIP clients at a time. So we don't need many people to call us. We actually have a waiting list right now because we've had so many people writing books during the pandemic, and they're all calling us saying they want to do PR, and we can't handle the demand. It's a really positive problem that we're working on hiring more people. So what type of businesses maybe do you think it's better to use Reels for versus not? Or is it everybody?
You know, it's a good question. I can tell you from my experience what businesses have benefited from Reels. Medical aesthetics practices, if you show someone before and after with a facial, you could show that in a little slideshow video, put that on Reels. Orthodontic as well, smile before you came to our office, smile after you came to our office. You could do architecture. I've seen that. Feng Shui, here's your living room before and after the architect or the Feng Shui expert came in. Business to business too. If you wanted to post marketing tips, I post those, and many other people do. I'm sure, on Reels, where it just says a quick tip. Here's 3 ways you can increase your engagement on YouTube, or 4 ways you can grow your audience on LinkedIn. So I would say that those some are the immediate things that could come to mind. So business to consumer, business to business. If you have a group of people that you consider to be either your customers or your prospective customers, and they spend some time on Instagram, I would say that qualifies you as a business that is at least worth testing to see how Reels do for you.
I love that. That was really helpful, those examples. What else about Instagram is really important to know? Like, a lot of people want to get just followers, if we go back to the basics for a minute. So what are your tips for how to get more followers on Instagram?
Yes, well, I can tell you that you want to post consistently, and you want to use some of the story features inside of Instagram. Any of them range from, you can ask an open-ended question and say, what is your goal for the 4th and final quarter of this year business-wise? And people can type in open-ended answers, and you can get some market research based on that and the words that they use. You could publish a poll. You could say, do you think you're using Instagram to your best benefit for your business? Yes or not yet. And you can see who says yes, who says not yet. Those people that say not yet, maybe you would want to message those people to say, oh, well, I can help you with that because I know how to help for businesses. And other features include, if you're running a special or a promotion, there's a countdown timer. You can say that our special on massages ends next Tuesday at 2:30. You have 4 days, 18 minutes, and 24 seconds left to get it. I'd say leverage the story features for engagement, post consistently, reply to comments, advertise. I run some paid advertising campaigns for the people I work with to reach more people. And because that's a little nuance with stories, and I know it's appropriate that we mention stories. Most, if not all, of the people who will see your stories already follow you. So that's a great way to further connect with them, and also good to keep in mind that when you post a story, the only people that are really going to see it, unless you pay to promote it more, are people who already are following.
So let's talk about that for a minute, because when Instagram first started, there wasn't really a heavy algorithm, and maybe that's because Facebook did not own it, and then Facebook went and bought Instagram. So now, do you really need to advertise to get your likes way up? Is it working the same way as Facebook?
You know, it's a good question, and the short answer is yes. From my experience, I'm sure there are people who would prefer to have the opposite be true. When Facebook, like you mentioned, became the parent company of Instagram, in many ways, if you look at that just from a perspective of, we've seen this before almost a little bit with other organizations, it's only a matter of time before it starts to become like the parent company. So we've reached that point, I feel. I can tell you from my medical aesthetics practices, I could post a before and after picture. If I don't advertise anything to it, maybe it'll get between 50, 60, 70 likes or so on their established audience, by the way. These people didn't start last week. They've been doing business for years. So that's just for some context. If I put some funds behind it in terms of boosting it, could be north of 150, 160. It could go as high as you really would want, so long as it gets approved. So the short answer to your question is that it is, yes, it is increasingly becoming pay to play.
Yeah, that's the way to say it. It's more pay to play. So let me ask you this in terms of the advertising, because we didn't really dig into that yet. What kind of advertising budget should a business have on Instagram? And also, can you talk about posting consistently? What does that mean?
Yes, absolutely. So we'll take those one part at a time. The paid advertising, you could start at $5, $10 a day, and you see that just increases your reach over a course of a few weeks. I always say if you were running your first campaign, you could put it at $10 a day. If you go it for a month, that's $300 for the month. Now, of course, every business is different, some, especially margin-wise. And so if you have a healthy, if you're generating revenue and you're in a place where you could say, and this really comes down to a conversation about marketing budgeting too. Every business should know their marketing budget at the start of the year. Then here's our marketing budget, divide it by 12. That's our monthly marketing budget. And we're going to say our people are on Instagram. Okay, therefore we're going to put 50% of our monthly budget to that. And we're going to increase our reach. So start it, if your first campaign, start it at $10 a day at least. If you're working for a company that can do more and is looking to allocate more, then by all means do so. I can tell you that I've seen budgets on both ranges, and it's there's a place for everybody if they're willing or have the desire to do it.
So it sounds like it's very similar to Facebook. In that Facebook, you can actually do an ad for $1 a day. So you could go as low as that on Facebook. Probably the same thing applies to Instagram. Is that right? Yes. Okay.
That's good.
Thumbs up on that. So you can do it for $1 a day. All right. Well, I think everybody should play with that. If you're a business and if you're a bigger business, you definitely need a bigger budget. So really think through what is going to be your budget. Now let's shift to the second part of my question, which was what is posting regularly? Because different people have different opinions about this. Should you post 3 pictures a day? Should you post once a day? Should you post once a week? What is the magic number?
If there was one, it's such a great.
Yeah, just tell us the answer.
I would be happy to if there. So here's my position on this. In an ideal world, once a day is great. If your schedule allows, then realistically, and I spoke to this point at a recent online conference for aesthetic nurses. You see a reference to that industry a lot during our conversations because I work with those type of people, among other people like architects. But to the aesthetic nurse community, I said, in a perfect world, you post every day, once a day. Realistically, when they're running their business, they're looking at the accounting, they're having calls, they're coming into the office, they're leaving the office, they're on lunch, they're getting their energy for the next client. Try it about 3 times a week. Now, if somebody says, oh, Michael, that's irresponsible of you to say because then they're shortchanging themselves, I say it has to be doable. This has to be realistic. So as often as your schedule allows, post to that frequency. I would say if you're looking for, I say in your own mind, something that's doable, if every day sounds too much, then slash the overwhelm and just try 3 times a week and ask yourself if you can do that. Some people may say yes, some people may say, no, Mike, I really need something else. Then pick a number that truly works for you because that's really what it comes down to. It has to work for you.
That's a really good point. Yes, you don't want to get overwhelmed. It's better to be consistent than get overwhelmed and just stop, which I make that mistake, definitely. So here's another question that's related. What if you have multiple Instagram accounts? For example, I think I have 5, and some of the same people are following me on multiple accounts. So if I post every day on 5 accounts, then they could see 5 pictures and think I'm driving them crazy. So how does that work?
Well, it's a good question. Sounds similar to one of the people I work with. They have 3. 2 of them are related. This person owns 2 businesses. 2 of the Instagram accounts are related to one business. The other account is related to the other business. This person's approach is they got something to post 90% of the time, they just post it to all 3. If it's very specific to one of the businesses, then they'll post to 2 of the 3, or they'll do it the other way. They'll do 1 of the 3 and they won't post to the other 2. And the results we've seen from that are good. So I would tell you that sometimes people need to see things more than once to even remember it or to take action. So unless you're getting comments or direct messages that specifically say, I've seen your information too much, stop doing this. If that's one thing. But if you have yet to ever see that, and you have 5 Instagram accounts, and what you want to post is related to all 5, I'd be tempted to say, go right ahead.
That is really interesting, because actually what I try to do is post unique content on each one. It may be related. For example, I have a client that sells real estate in Panama, and I got to go to Panama in the beginning of September. So I was posting a lot of pictures about the trip, but I didn't post the same picture on each Instagram, but it was the same theme and the same topic.
Right.
The other thing that I've done is that if I find a news story that I really like, I will post that on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn and Twitter. So I'll put that in different places on different platforms. I just don't post the exact same content on Instagram on the 5 accounts, which they're all for different purposes, but some of it overlaps a little bit. What I do, which I don't know if you would advocate this, but I go in, and if I post something, say on Liz H. Kelly on Instagram, I go to all the other ones and hit like on that post. So then I automatically have 5 likes when the picture starts. So do you do that too?
If I had that many accounts, I'd have to make that decision for myself.
Yeah.
I'd say that I have to be in your position to go through the thought process as to deciding whether or not I would do that. But I'd say that in the immediate present, it doesn't strike me as something that's detrimental. And frankly, if you keep doing it, that's okay. And I think you said something important there, which is that the accounts are similar, yet they have different purposes. So that's important to know each one's role. My person that I work with, it's more or less just, it's 2 different names on the account, but it's for the same purpose. That's why they post everything to each one. But when you have your own setup of different purposeful accounts, then that requires a unique approach.
Yeah. I mean, we have a book, 8-Second PR. We have an Instagram for that. But then we also run the Goody Awards for social good. So it's 2 different topics. And then we try to have a personal brand, but really you as a brand represent your business brand also. There's definitely overlap. So I really appreciate all those insights. So when you send a report to a client, what types of measurements are you looking at? What types of things should people be really tracking? We've talked about likes and shares and favorites and things like that, but for, I guess, engagement and to increase the likes, increase the followers, what are you looking at every month?
Okay, well, as far as the information I share with people I work with, I always base it on, number one, if I have access to the software they use for their business that shows how many new clients they've got, because that can give me a little bit of an indication as to say our goal was to get 60 new clients a month. And that is a real number for one of the people that I work with. Every 30 days, we want to get 60 new clients a month. If we get 77, we've done it, and we've gotten bonus as well. So we've superseded that. So I always refer, in terms of what do I report, it's always business-centric, revenue-oriented results first, because that's what keeps them going. Then as far as social metrics go, we have everything from reach, impressions, the 2 that I don't hear too much in terms of relative conversation. They get mentioned, just less than some of the other metrics are the saves and the shares, back to that. And video views, if we have that going for us, likes on a particular post, I'll get a text or I'll get a phone call and they'll say, we want to get this post to 100 likes. That happened to me within this past week. So that's something that if we did that, I would report it back. So revenue statistics, business-oriented statistics, if I have access to that, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. reach, impressions, video views, save shares, and we take it from there.
I love it. That is really helpful because everybody wants a return on investment and ROI on their social media versus just being out there and feeling like you're talking to a wall. Definitely that's great if you can get access to that information on the revenue results. All right. What else have we not talked about that we should talk about Instagram?
Well, a recent change has been, for the longest time, we heard about that swipe up feature on Instagram stories. You get to 10,000 followers, you get a swipe up feature where you could say, here's a picture, learn more about it by swiping up. Swipe up has been replaced by a link sticker. So they're into stickers. They got a sticker for timers. They got a sticker for this and that. And now they have switched swipe up for link sticker. So let's say that you have a blog post that you've written. And then one example that comes to mind is a biomedical functional medicine specialist that I work with. So they post tips about nutrition and biomedical information. Learn 4 ways to boost your energy this fall season. Swipe up to see the tips. And a picture related to that is what we used to be able to post when we had swipe up. Now it would be the same thing, except for saying swipe up to view the tips, it would say tap the sticker to view the tips. So we change a little bit of the wording. It presents, as far as what does this look like? It looks like a little link, almost like a paper clip that will show up on your stories. If someone clicks on it, they'll be brought to your whatever page you're directing them to if you have over 10,000 followers on Instagram. So that's one of the recent changes we've seen. And some people are saying, well, why did you do this? Why did Instagram change this to begin with? It's been here for years. Some people are saying they're going to test the way we scroll and changing that. So when you're going through stories, you click to the right, you click to the left. That's how you scroll. Now they may want you to use your thumb and scroll north to south. So swipe up was a barrier to that because it's the same motion that you would have had to do to swipe up. So they said, well, we're going to remove that barrier, put a sticker in, and we'll see where they go as to if it's their thought process. But maybe the future of scrolling in some medium, in some capacity on Instagram, instead of right to left, maybe north to south for the Instagram stories.
That's very interesting what you just said. And one of the key things that I heard that I want to confirm is that you need 10,000 followers to do this. Is that right?
The longest time, yes. And even in their current change, the short answer is yes.
Okay, well, that would be a problem for us. We have 12,000 on Twitter, but that doesn't count.
That's good too.
Yeah, no, we became a big Twitter lover very early on. And we were laughing this week when Facebook and Instagram went down because we knew to go to Twitter to find out what was really happening. And I love Twitter for that reason. So I digress, but I am a Twitter fan. Right. We are almost out of time. So there's one last question that I like to ask people, and then I'll ask you where people can find you. But the question I have is tied to our book, 8-Second PR. So if you only had 8 seconds to market your brand on Instagram, what's the most important thing to do? Because you can post a picture in 8 seconds, but what should you do if you only have 8 seconds?
I would say you should create a paid targeted ad campaign, measure its results, and create another one to see if you could outdo it.
So you create, and with his hands, Michael he counted 8 seconds when he was talking. So that was great. So basically you're saying put a paid ad up, but then also do a second one. So it's like an A/B test for an ad.
That's exactly right. Run the first one, see what the results are. If they're happy, neutral, or in another direction, and then when that's over, see if you could outdo what you just did. Take what you learned, because you'll see, oh, this picture did better than this video, or this carousel did better than that picture. And then take those learnings and bring them into the next one to see if you could outdo yourself.
Fantastic. I love that example. Thank you for that. So now, as we wrap up, please tell us where we can find you, because you are multi-talented, multifaceted.
As to where they can find more about my digital marketing aspect and services, I'm at michaelguberti.com, so my full name.com. I have a link, michaelguberti.com/schedule. If anyone wants to, as the name might imply, schedule a conversation and talk about their digital marketing. And for my nonprofit, is to we've helped youth and also single mothers and veterans are on our thought process at gubertigiving.com, because that's the name of the nonprofit, gubertigiving.com.
So Michael Guberti, I'm saying it like the Italian, michaelguberti.com, michaelguberti.com/schedule if you want to talk to Michael about your social media, and then gubertigiving.com. And I want to spell Guberti, is it Guberti, So Michael, this has just been such a awesome conversation, packed with great information about Instagram. So any final words before we sign off to our listeners?
Well, Liz, it's been great speaking with you as always, and you always provide great value to the people that listen to you. And to everybody here, I would just say that apply consistency to your marketing, measure the results, and if you can, always tie it back to the business-oriented results, because that, when you look at everything, and it's all important, you could very responsibly take the position that that is perhaps the most important thing you can look at, the business results of all of this.
Exactly. The business results, and it all starts with the brand story, which is really a big part of the emphasis of our podcast, 8-Second Branding. So thank you again, Michael, and thank you to all the listeners. And please come back for more episodes of 8-Second Branding, the podcast.
Do you want to increase your sales and word of mouth marketing by constantly being in headline news? Instead of getting lost at a big agency, Goody PR specializes in VIP service, where making your business look good is their top priority. Goody PR founder and best-selling author Liz H. Kelly has been there, done that, and built a team of PR professionals who have booked thousands of major media interviews for clients, including The Today Show, CNN, Fox News, BBC, NPR, and many, many more. Let them partner with you to find ways to magnify your brand so it emotionally connects and reaches your ideal audience. And the best part is that media interviews are 3 times more valuable than any paid ad. What are you waiting for? Email info@goodypr.com today. Set up a call to discuss how to get your story and business moving forward. That's info@goodypr.com. Thank you for tuning in for this edition of 8-Second Branding. Keep checking back for new shows featuring your host, Liz H. Kelly, on the Voice America Business Channel.